Hi. If these were normal times, you would be in your classroom at Live Oak School, and the person sitting in front of you would be Anne Marie Yellin, speaking about her experiences during the Holocaust. But times are not normal, you're not there, and Anne Marie couldn't be anywhere near you. So Jenny, your librarian, asked me if I would read her testimony that she had written some time ago. I know Jenny since both our kids were in kindergarten at Live Oak School, where John was their kindergarten teacher. And I'm honored to read Anne Marie's words. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Anne Marie Yellin, and I'm a survivor of the Holocaust. I was a hidden child in a Catholic convent in Belgium, but let me explain to you how it all started and how I came to Belgium. I was born in Germany, where I lived a happy and comfortable life until Hitler came to power in 1933. The first 5 years were tolerable, but in the fall of 1938, a German delegate in Paris was assassinated, and the Jews were blamed for it. The Germans retaliated on the 9th of November 1938 by breaking all the windows of the Jewish businesses and homes, took merchandise and valuables, and burnt houses of worship. This night was called Kristallnacht, Crystal Night. All the men were taken to concentration camps by SS, Gestapo, which stands for Hitler's Special Police Forces. My father was one of them, and to this day I can hear their footsteps, wearing black boots and leather coats. My father was taken to Buchenwald, a concentration camp. To this day, I dislike leather coats and boots. Luckily, my father was released after 6 weeks because my mother was able, for a fee, to obtain false papers that proved my parents and I had passage to South America and that we were leaving Germany. Our citizenships were taken away and we became stateless. And not until I came to the United States through a sponsor, waited 5 years, had to pass a test on U.S. history, and show skills in the English language that I finally became a U.S. citizen. My parents and I left Germany in September of 1939. There were people called paid guides who took people illegally over the border to Belgium. And once you crossed into Belgium, the king and queen would give you asylum, meaning you could stay. We left only with the clothes on our backs and traveled in the middle of the night. You couldn't make a sound as German shepherd dogs were sniffing about looking for anyone who was escaping. We finally arrived at dawn at the Belgium border in the city of Malmedy, where a van was waiting to transport us to Brussels. We were about 10 people escaping. When we arrived in Brussels, there was a special committee who settled us into various homes. I was able to go to school once more since I was not able to do so in Germany since November 1938. We were identified by the yellow star, which usually Anne Marie wears when she comes to speak to the people at Live Oak. But here's a picture of the yellow star that she still has to this day, and that she wears when she gives her testimony to people who are studying the Holocaust. So, let's see. Okay. However, it was a culture shock to a 10-year-old. I only spoke German, and in Brussels they speak French. In some parts of Belgium, they speak Flemish. I felt like such an outsider. Just as I started to feel comfortable and to make some friends, World War II officially broke out and the Germans invaded Belgium. Actually, war officially broke out earlier than that, but I'll come to that later. I'm sure you learned that through your teacher, Michelle. They invaded Belgium at this time, so war came directly to Anne Marie. Okay, back to her testimony. My parents and I tried to flee to a town called Dunkirk in France, where English ships were to take us to England. We walked daily, approximately 20 miles, saw pretty scary things. People on the street with missing limbs, dead people and animals. Bombing was around us. Needless to say, I was scarred. Unfortunately, we never made it to England. The German army surrounded us. Later, Dunkirk was well known as the biggest defeat for the Allied forces. We returned by trucks to Brussels, went to our homes, which consisted of one large room, and again we had to wear the Star of David. Not allowed in school, and afraid if the Nazis picked us up, we'd be sent to concentration camps. This time, men, women, and children. Luckily, there was a woman, a student at the University of Brussels, who worked with the Underground, which was an organization that helped people who were persecuted and discriminated against. She was in close contact with the Catholic Archdiocese and was able to hide and therefore save about 300 children. We were put in various convents. Mine was called the Convent of St. Anthony of Padua. It was a boarding school for us girls. There were about 60 Jewish children there. The only ones who knew we were Jewish were the Mother Superior and the directress. They literally risked their lives for us. Many who were caught were tortured and put to death. We felt very safe there. The majority of us converted to Catholicism, myself included. I participated in all the religious events, went to Mass daily, and made First Communion. I missed my parents. When you're a child, to be separated from your parents is a frightening experience. Some of the girls went home on weekends, but you were taking a terrible risk. Some never returned, as they were picked up by the Germans and taken to concentration camps, where they were exterminated. My father had false papers with a pass that allowed him to travel certain days so he could visit me. To top it all off, my mother had a stroke and was not allowed to receive medical attention, as Jews were not allowed this either. The convent where I was hidden also had a convalescent home, and my mother was taken in and cared for. She died shortly when the war ended, but an English parachutist was said to have landed near the convent in July of 1944. The Germans came looking for him. We had to hide in the steeple from the church all night while the Germans searched the convent. But lucky for us, our Mother Superior was able to convince them that he was not hiding there. However, the next day, we had to leave the convent, which was traumatic for us. We were placed in quite a different atmosphere. Guess what? A reform school. We were treated just like all the other problem children, and again, only the Mother Superior knew who we were. Luckily, it was only for a short time, as we were liberated by the Allied forces, English-American soldiers, on September 4th, 1944, and we were free. The war continued, and we lived in fear that the Germans would return, but thank God, in April 1945, the war was over for us. In 1969, I, along with my daughter, who was then 11 years old, visited the convent. She met the nuns and was quite charmed by them too. She has a daughter today who is your age and has heard my story. The convent is no longer there. The nuns have passed away, but my gratitude will be forever. In 1991, I attended an international reunion of all the hidden children during the Nazi era, where I was privileged to see and embrace the woman who was instrumental in getting me into the convent. I was united with school friends that I hadn't seen since 1945. So So usually this is the point of Anne Marie's story where she would invite you to ask her questions, but she's not here, and I would like to share a little bit of my history and my father. My father was in a concentration camp throughout the entire war. He was from Poland, where the Germans invaded on September 1st, 1939, and his father and he were taken then. He was 15 years old. Everybody in my father's family perished. His mother, his father, his four brothers, Avraham, Chaim, Chaya, and Benjamin, and his sister Rachel. My father was the only survivor. And after the war ended in April of 1945, he spent another 2 years in a displaced person camp before he came to America. And I was cleaning out my mother's house before she moved. My father has died quite a few years ago. And I found this suitcase in there. I want to hold it up for you. This is the suitcase that my father came to America with. And it says his name at the time, Wolof Patlebnik. He became Willie Parker on Ellis Island when he came to America. And I just want to show you a couple of pictures. This is when he first came to America. It says Wolof Patlebnik. This is a picture of my father. And here he is with my two sons, who both went to Live Oak. This is my father with Daniel, when Daniel, this is back east in the snow, when Daniel was, about second or third grade. And this is a picture of Evan, who is playing poker with my father. He's in first grade. Anyway, thank you so much. It's been a real honor for me to speak with you. And Anne Marie would like you to know that if you have any questions, feel free through your teacher, Michelle, or through Jenny to get in touch with Anne Marie. And the same thing, if you have any questions about my father's experiences, ask Jenny to get in touch with me. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you. Bye now.